And it was just another day, yeah.
Just another day.
Until I went to the movies, and now it's a movie Chewsday. A movie Chewsday. Until a movie Chewsday.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Chewsday, the special day, where we celebrate the news of movies, the trailers of movies, and the movies of movies that we watch in theaters, or in the comfort of our own homes, or at friends' houses. However you take your movies nowadays. So, let's get right into the news, shall we? It's going to be very superhero heavy, so if you're tired of hearing about superhero shit for the most part, I'm sorry. You'll just have to tune back in next time when there's not a lot of superhero news. So, coming over from comicbook.com, Pablo Schreiber is interested in playing Wolverine now that Hugh Jackman has stepped down. So he was doing some kind of interview. I'm going to assume he was promoting American Gods because they just wrapped up the first season of that show last week. Or this past... Yeah, last week. No, this past week because it was on Sunday. And Sunday's the start of a new week. So earlier this week, they wrapped up the first season of that show. So I'm assuming he's going around just doing like publicity tours, promoting that whole thing. And he was talking about how he's interested in playing Wolverine and Deadpool. He would most likely want to play Wolverine just because the seat is open. You know, Hugh Jackman stepped down. Now it's time to fill that seat. And seeing as how Ryan Reynolds is going to be playing Deadpool, at least for a couple more movies, he can't do Deadpool right now. And he's been a huge fan of Wolverine since way back in the 80s and stuff. So that's cool that he wants to play that role. Had I have not seen his portrayal of the character Mad Sweeney in American Gods, I kind of would have, you know, kind of like lifted an eyebrow with him playing Wolverine. But seeing his role in that show, it is a clear audition for him to be Wolverine. He would make a nice, gruffy Canadian man with a adamantium skeleton and claws to match. He's got the right attitude for it. I mean, he is tall, but Hugh Jackman's tall too, so I don't really think height is a factor when it comes to that character. So I could see him playing that role. I still am more sold on the idea of Tom Hardy playing Wolverine, but obviously that's not going to happen either. At least, I don't know. Who knows what could happen nowadays? There's a lot of actors double dipping in the fucking superhero pool nowadays. So I would still like to see Tom Hardy, but my name in the hat is still going to be my boy Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's son, just because he is a spitting image of Hugh Jackman. Well, not spitting, but kind of, because, you know, we've been through this before. He's Clint Eastwood's son, so he looks like a young Clint Eastwood, and Hugh Jackman looks like young Clint Eastwood. So that's why I want to see that guy in the role of Wolverine. But I wouldn't be mad if Pablo stepped in there and took the mantle. That's not going to be happening anytime soon, as far as I know, because Fox, the people over at Fox have said that they want to kind of let that character rest and let it breathe a little bit. Now that Hugh Jackman's retired, they kind of want to give it its moment to kind of like settle out before they fill that role again. But yeah, if Pablo were to step in, like I wouldn't be mad at that. So yeah, that's about my 2 cents on that. It would also be funny for him to play Wolverine because then, like, you know, his brother Liev Schreiber, who plays Sabretooth in the Wolverine Origins movie, which I just found out they were brothers. When I look at Pablo, Liev Schreiber does not pop into my head at all. That was a huge surprise when I found out they were related. In fact, when I read his last name, because I never even knew his real name, I just know Pablo as Pornstache from Orange is the New Black, but now I know him as Mad Sweeney, but I still mainly know him as Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black. I don't know if Liev Schreiber would like reprise his role as Sabretooth if Pablo did get the role, but it would be funny to just like those two like have those close roles, because apparently Wolverine and Sabretooth are related or something. Weren't they? Didn't they say they were related in the movie? Or were they like stepbrothers or some shit like that? I don't know. But it's just funny that they're brothers in the movie, but then they could be brothers in real life as well. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. Anyway, moving on to the next news item. Courtesy of Cinema Blend, Amy Pascal, who is the producer on the upcoming Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, has confirmed that the Venom movie that is supposedly being worked on right now is going to be canon, or it's going to exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So all the hard work that Marvel Studios has been doing for almost a decade now Sony's jumping in there and saying that Venom is in that world, along with the Silver Sable and Black Cat movie that they're making. Like all that stuff is in the MCU now. This is news to me because I know there's like some kind of like meme or GIF or some bullshit going on with Kevin Feige, because he was sitting right next to her when she was doing the interview and like explaining all this stuff. And I guess he made some kind of like face, like he didn't know what the hell was going on, like somebody didn't tell him that those movies existed in the same universe. I kind of see what people are talking about, but at the same time, I feel like he would have said something. I mean, even though it kind of would have been a little disrespectful to do it in that interview, I feel like that's something you would want to correct right then and there, because it's going to be even worse if he were to come out later and be like, yeah, all that bullshit she just said, just ignore all that. The Venom is Sony's thing. Like, no, fuck that. You know what I mean? So, I'm sure he knew about it. Maybe like she wasn't supposed to say it right then and there, because maybe they're still trying to like work some kinks out. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just as confused as everyone else is, if they are confused. I know I'm confused for the most part, because I was under the impression that Sony was doing their own Marvel universe, like separate from what Marvel Studios is doing, and they were at the very least just gonna have Tom Holland's Spider-Man kind of like jump back and forth between universes or something like that. Now it just kind of like, is there even a Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe like they were originally saying? Like I don't get how that's going to work. She did say that Venom and Spider-Man were gonna be adjunct with each other. So like Spider-Man's off doing his thing in one part of the city, and then Venom was going to be doing his thing in another part, just completely separate from what Spider-Man's doing. It kind of sounds like if they are moving forward with this, if this is the plan, is to rope like Sony's properties into the MCU, it kind of sounds like Sony's going to do what Marvel's doing with their Netflix shows. Because like the Netflix shows are in the same universe as the MCU, but they don't ever cross over for the most part. Like I don't even think Phil Coulson has showed up in any of the Netflix shows. I mean, even Samuel Jackson has showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to like say that, hey, these are in the same universe and we're even crossing shit over, you know. But there hasn't been anybody from the cinematic universe that's crossed over into the Netflix universe, as far as I know. There have only been like mentions of characters and like newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and just brought up in dialogue about past events that have happened in the movies. So I feel like that's probably what they're going to end up doing with Sony's movies, is just that they can do their own thing, but they still are kind of like bound by the shackles of the MCU, if that's what they're doing. So this is usually the part where I say that's cool, but honestly, I know I'm going to be blowing this out of proportion when I say this, you know, but this is just my knee-jerk reaction to this whole thing. We could be seeing the start of the fall of the MCU as we know it. Because, I mean, no offense to Sony, man. I mean, they just been kind of dropping the ball with their Spider-Man movies since Spider-Man 3. You know, now I don't know if they've like corrected some mistakes or if they're just gonna kind of like let Marvel Studios do their thing. I don't know what's going on, because I know that the last time I checked with Spider-Man, the way Spider-Man Homecoming works, or the way it's gonna work, is how's it gonna work? It was something like Sony is just they're letting Marvel Studios use Spider-Man, you know, because Sony has the movie rights to that character. They're going to let them use Spider-Man in their movies, and I think like Marvel Studios just has like complete control over how the movies are going to be done, like who's casted in the movies, what the movie's going to be about, who's going to direct it, who's producing it, and stuff like that. Like Marvel Studios has complete control over all that stuff, but then the money that the movie makes, like the money that Spider-Man Homecoming makes, goes straight to Sony. I don't know if a piece of it goes to Marvel Studios. I would hope some of that money goes to Marvel Studios. I'm pretty sure that movie's going to make a shitload of money like all Spider-Man movies do. So there's enough to go around for everybody. But I feel like the bulk of that money is going to go to Sony. So they kind of just sit back, you know, with their hands behind their heads like this, and they're just like, yeah, I can get used to this. So that was a story that I read like a while back when they first made this joint deal. Now, going forward with the rest of the Spider-Man characters, like the rest of that whole situation, I don't know if they have that same deal. Like, as far as I know, on Sony's side, their whole thing is that Venom was going to kickstart the Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they were just going to kind of do their whole thing. Like, that was the impression that I had from what they were saying in past reports. But as of right now, I mean, maybe they could just be doing, like, the anti-heroes on that side, because, I mean, they're doing the Venom movie right now. The Silver Sable and Black Cat movie is probably going to be going into production pretty soon. It's at least in the planning stages. So as of right now, it kind of looks like Sony is more focusing on the villains / anti-heroes in the Spider-Man universe, and they're probably just going to use that to kind of like set up the villains and then work their way over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like crossover style, like maybe, because that is one of the big criticisms with the Marvel Studios movies, is that a lot of their villains are kind of like meh, you know, with the exception of Loki. But so maybe that's like their workaround with it, is they're just gonna have Sony kind of work on the villains of that universe and then eventually cross them over. So that's just my theory. I don't know what the fuck is going on over there, but somebody needs to like set this shit straight. Because I thought, like, I mean, I've watched the video of the interview. I don't know if that was the entire interview, but if the interviewer in that video didn't bring this up, shame on them. But you would have hoped that they would have at least asked Amy Pascal or Kevin Feige or Feige, like, what the hell is going on as far as like the plans of the Marvel Universe if Venom is now in the MCU. You know, I feel like they could have asked that question. Maybe they couldn't, but, and I'm no interview expert, but last time I checked, there is a list that interviewers get to you know, like shit that they can ask and shit that they can't ask, and maybe them asking what this means for the whole cinematic universe was on the don't ask list. But last time I checked, if someone brings it up, like if someone kind of like alludes to that question that shouldn't be asked, you kind of have like the permission to go further into that, you know. And I feel like that was a perfect opportunity to be like, okay, if it's in that universe, like how the fuck is that going to work with all the movies you got planned in the pipeline? What about the Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe? What's going on with that, you know? But I don't know. Like I said, I'm no interview expert. I don't know how this shit goes. I don't know what can and can't be asked, but I feel like that's something that should be addressed pretty soon, because right now I'm kind of worried about the MCU. I mean, I was already worried about the MCU. It's been going a little long in the tooth, you know, but now I'm getting even more worried. Other news too, recently I just read that Carnage was confirmed to be the main antagonist in the Venom movie. So, yay, I guess. Like I said before, I'm not really a huge fan of Venom, and Carnage is roped in there as well. So I'm just kind of like, well, whatever. Like I said, my interest in the movie is simply because Tom Hardy is in it. Like that's the only thing I care about, and that's the only reason why I'm going to see that movie. But another thing to remember too is that apparently, because they were also saying that in the Venom movie, I don't know if they may have said that Spider-Man won't show up in the first movie, but Tom Holland's Spider-Man will eventually make appearances in the anti-hero movies that Sony's doing. So remember, you can't do a proper Venom story without having my boy Peter Parker in there. So, ha! All right. Anyway, next story, courtesy of IGN. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are no longer directing the Han Solo movie. Apparently, there were some creative differences between them and the writer of the movie. The writer being Lawrence Kasdan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. His writing credit, as far as Star Wars goes, is Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, which is the best Star Wars movie to me. I don't know what y'all think, but you know, it's my favorite. And The Force Awakens. So already this man has some fucking weight under that belt, okay? And he can fucking swing that belt however he likes. And he swung his belt at Lord and Miller, because the creative differences that they were having was like with the writing and the delivery of the lines and the filming and stuff. It was saying that that Kasdan is more the type of writer where he likes the movies, like the scenes to stick to the script, like what's written down on the paper, which I really appreciate. And Lord and Miller are more along the lines of, they operate more on improv. They kind of like to take the scenes as they go, you know. So they're like a Judd Apatow, where they kind of give you the idea of what's going on in the scene and what they're trying to get across, and they kind of just let the actors go with it, you know. So you know, just a lot of improvisational shit going on. And the writer did not like that. So he was just like, hey man, I can't do this shit, you know, like these motherfuckers got to go. All right. So like Lord and Miller, I guess, were trying to work around this whole situation, you know. I guess they were starting to butt heads and everything. And then the head of Lucasfilms, Kathleen Kennedy, stepped in and was like, y'all bitches got to go. All right. This man has some fucking weight under his belt, and he is swinging it in my direction, telling me to get y'all out the door. And that's what happened. So here's the thing. Apparently it wasn't just Kathleen Kennedy either. It was also Allison Schirmer. God, these names. Allison Schirmer. We're just going to go with Schirmer. She's the producer on the Han Solo movie. So I guess she had a problem with the way Lord and Miller were doing the movie as well. The bottom line is that my interest in this movie has now gone up, because I am not a big Lord and Miller fan. I'm not a fan of their work. I didn't really care for the Lego movie. I didn't care for 21 Jump Street. I haven't seen 22 Jump Street and really don't plan on watching 22 Jump Street, because I heard it's just the first movie, just more crazier. So I'm kind of just staying away from that. I have not seen the Lego Batman movie. I do not plan on watching that either, even though I think they're just producers on that movie. I don't think they necessarily directed it, but still, I just kind of, whenever I hear their names come up, I just kind of like look in the other direction. I'm not a fan of them. So when they first got announced that they were going to be directing the Han Solo movie, I kind of immediately just checked out. I'm already like halfway out the door with the animated Spider-Man movie that I think Miller is working on now. I think he's a producer or something. He's either a producer or a writer, one of those. But you know, when you're dealing with an animated movie, you can't really do a lot of improv, you know, so maybe that'll work out a little better. But when I heard that they were doing the Han Solo movie, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I want to watch that. And I'm a really big Star Wars fan, so it means a lot when I say I ain't trying to watch a damn Star Wars movie, you know what I mean? So, it's good news to me that they're no longer a part of this project. It sucks for anybody to lose their job like that. I mean, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear it, but at the same time, I'm not sorry. I'm happy that you guys are not a part of this project. So that's great. I don't really have a huge problem with like improv and shit. I think improv is funny, but I don't think every actor is good at improving. And I'm going to get into that later when we get into Baywatch at the end of this whole shenanigans. I am more of a like stick to the script kind of person. Even like when I do these videos, like I have notes to go off of just so I don't get too off track, or just so there's not like any kind of dead air for me trying to figure out what to talk about next. You know what I mean? I at least like keep notes to where I follow like the outline of the notes to just keep things moving. But I don't just like come here and just right off the cuff be like, hey, this is what I thought about this is what I thought about that, blah, 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 blah. You know, I like to think things through, like to let things soak a little bit, like to let my mind get all relaxed, and then I give my full thought on the situation, you know. So I side with the writer and the producers and everybody else that's against Lord and Miller. So like I said before, sorry you guys got to go, but I'm not sorry you guys got to go. Really looking forward to the Han Solo movie now, even though I still stand by the fact that this movie should not be made at all. We don't need to see a young Han Solo. We need to get away from the whole Skywalker camp with these Star Wars stories, and let's start telling new stories. And I honestly don't understand how shit is working over at not Universal, over at Lucasfilms / Disney, because one minute you want to use a character from the old movies and just like computer generate their face onto somebody else's face, and the next minute you want to get a completely new character or a completely new actor to play an old character and be like, oh, this is young Han Solo. It's like, why the fuck didn't you guys just get Harrison Ford up in there and do the whole young computer generated thing that y'all love doing so much now? Maybe it has something to do with not Han Solo. Well, I guess it's the same thing, but maybe it has something to do with Harrison Ford not really want to do Star Wars movies anymore. I don't know. Maybe it just looks kind of weird, you know, like everybody else just gets fucking facial reconstruction and shit on screen, and this motherfucker just comes through and says, hey guys, I'm fucking Han Solo. Hey. So yeah. Breaking news happened. I read this a little before I started recording that Ron Howard is now attached to direct the movie, or at least finish the movie, because I think they started filming already. So he's kind of doing like Josh Whedon, where he's coming in on the tail end of the movie and kind of like righting some wrongs, like things that he doesn't like or whatever. Just get more of the original vision of what the producers and shit were going for when they first came up with the concept for the Han Solo movie. So that's cool. I'm really indifferent with Ron Howard. He's okay. I don't really know any traits that Ron Howard has when it comes to his movies. You know, I just know that he makes solid movies. You know, Apollo 13, Rush. Well, he did do In the Heart of the Sea, and that movie wasn't that great. But I mean, you know, not everybody's perfect. You know, we all got lose sometime, you know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, Ron Howard's a good get. You know, his name's gonna draw in a lot more people, as if a Star Wars movie wouldn't draw in enough people as is. But Ron Howard's gonna draw in even more people. He'll make a solid movie, I'm sure. And I'm pretty sure he'll give the writer what he wants, which is sticking to the script, right? Stop being lazy, people. Stop all that improv shit, right? Getting a little crazy with it. Moving on. Sticking in the superhero realm, kind of, you know, because Star Wars is under Disney, and Disney makes Marvel movies, which is superheroes. And DC also works with WB to make superhero movies. No, that's a horrible segue. Whatever. Moving on to the next news article, courtesy of Screen Rant. Gal Gadot made $300,000 for her appearance in Batman v Superman, her starring role in Wonder Woman, and her supporting role that is upcoming in Justice League. $300,000 each. That is $900,000 for anyone who doesn't know how to do math. So the key word is, well, I don't think I said the key word. Her base pay for the DC movies was $300,000. The key word here for all you women out there getting ready to burn your bras, and all you fucking dudes out there about to put on your fucking shiny ass white armor, okay? Extinguish your flaming bras and dirty up your white armor, or at least put it back in his chest. The key word here is base pay. That's her $300,000 is her base pay for her roles in those movies, but she will make more money off of bonuses from the performance of the movies. So rest assured, she will be getting her money. Don't worry about it. I guess like the original story, it recently got fixed, but the original story kind of made it seem like she was getting a little shafted with the pay. You know, everybody's like, oh my God, $300,000, that's not a lot of money. I mean, when you think about her appearance in Batman v Superman, $300,000 ain't too shab. You know, even after taxes and shit like that, it's not too shab, because, you know, she had a small part in that movie. She wasn't even supposed to be in that fucking movie, honestly. So $300,000 is not too bad. Now, the $300,000 in Justice League is a little, I mean, that's fine for now, but the $300,000 for Wonder Woman is a little questionable, because, you know, that's like her movie. She's starring in it. I feel like she could make a little more, but then I did a little bit of research, and she's kind of around the ballpark of other actors who are in who first started out in superhero roles. So like, one of the things was the original story was saying that Henry Cavill got paid like $14 million, I think, for Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So everybody was kind of like freaking out about that. But then it was later said that his base pay was around what Gal Gadot had made, which was $300,000. It probably was a little bit more, because there is that thing right now in Hollywood where male actors are getting paid more than female actors. So I'm pretty sure his was probably a little more north of 300,000. But like after like bonuses and stuff based off of the performance of the movie, he ended up getting up into like the $14 million range for those movies. I also did a little bit more research and went a little further back, which was a little hard to find, so I had to like take what I can get. But there was a forum post that was talking about like what Robert Downey Jr. made playing the role of Iron Man in the first Iron Man movie, and they were saying that his base pay was like $500,000, but then due to the performance of that movie, like through all the bonuses and shit that he was getting, he ended up getting like $10 million at the end of the day when all was said and done for Iron Man 1. And then we all know what happened from there, where he was getting like fucking $50 million doing Iron Man 2 and Avengers and shit, which is just fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So first, here's the thing. First of all, it sucks being famous. I'm sorry, dude. Like, I do not like the idea of people knowing how much money I make. I don't even like letting my girlfriend know how much money I make, you know? And their shit is just all out there, you know? They're all up in Forbes and shit's like, oh, you know, The Rock made like $30 million last year doing all this. Like, damn, Rock, pulling in that money? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. That sucks. Second, when you factor in the money that, like, going back to Henry Cavill when they said like cumulative with all the bonuses and shit that he got and split between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, that his total ended up being like $14 million. $14 million is a lot of money, but at the same time, $14 million is not a lot of money for him. I've said this before, but actors don't make as much money as you think they do. Like, $14 million, let's just go ahead and cut that in half with taxes. You know, let's go ahead and factor in the managers, the agents, the wives, the husbands, the kids, the mistresses, the mistresses, all that shit. Like, at the end of the day, they ain't making that much money. I mean, they're still making a lot of money, but they ain't making that much money. And they most likely live in California, which is just like a fucking blood-sucking state when it comes to finances. Like, that's not a lot of money. So, you know. But so there's that. The other thing is too that kind of like that maybe kind of like question this whole thing with Gal Gadot situation. $300,000 doesn't seem like a lot for her. I feel like she should have got paid a little more for all the movies that she has appeared in and is gonna appear in, just because she's coming from the Fast and Furious franchise, and the Fast and Furious movies, that's a $1 billion franchise. Now, I know she wasn't starring in those movies. I know she wasn't in every single one, but she was in a good amount of the movies. And I'm pretty sure she was in the ones that got up into the $1 billion range. And even if it wasn't the $1 billion range, those movies still made a fuck ton of money. And she was a part of that crew. So I feel like they could have bumped up her base pay just a little bit based off of the whole Fast and Furious thing. But I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy how that whole thing works. That I don't really know how it works, but I just feel like with her pedigree, like with her resume, I feel like she could have got a little bit more money. Like, as far as Henry Cavill goes, I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do anything before Man of Steel, but I don't think he's been a part of anything that made as much money as the Fast and Furious movies, is all I'm saying. So, you know, she kind of could have been in that Robert Downey Jr. range where it's like, hey, man, like, why don't you make my base pay like $500,000 and we see what happens from there? You know what I'm saying? I do like the whole base pay thing, though, because, you know, you don't want to fucking give an actor like $2 million base pay for these superhero movies, and then the movie flops, and you're just like, God damn, like, we all $2 million, and, you know, critics and fans are all saying that this $2 million person was like the worst part of the movie. Like, I don't know how much Halle Berry made when she did Catwoman, but I hope she didn't make in the fucking millions off of that movie, because that movie was garbage. Okay, it was horrible. So it's good that they kind of have like that base pay thing there. That way they can like work their way up to the millions, like the people over at Marvel are doing at the moment. So but yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of crazy, you know. But $300,000, it's all right, I guess. You know, I mean, like I said, $14 million ain't a lot of money. $300,000 is kind of chump change, but you know what? It keeps you hungry. It keeps you in that grind, you know what I'm saying? It makes you want to give that good performance so you can get that bonus. So you can get that real performance. You know what I'm talking about? So, anyway, that's gonna do it for the news. We've rambled on enough about that. Nice juicy superhero news. Let's get into some trailers. And yes, I said trailers and not trailer. We're coming back. We're coming back, baby. Woo! And first up is Annabelle Creation. Coming out August 11th. So, I kind of watched the trailer for this. I watched enough to make me want to go see the movie when it comes out. I watched enough to where there's not too much that's going to get ruined for me. You know how I feel about trailers. I've noticed that especially when it comes to movies that James Wan is attached to, they show too much, man. Like, I made that mistake last year with Lights Out and Don't Breathe, to where I was so excited for those movies and they looked so intriguing to me that I not only watched the entire trailer for those movies before they came out, but I kept watching the trailers leading up to the movie coming out. So by the time I actually got to watch the movie in theaters, I ran into that same problem where there's a lot of shit that I watched that they had already shown in the trailers that just kind of ruined the suspense. It ruined the surprise of everything, to where I was just kind of watching the movie and just be like, yep, I remember this part. I remember this. Nope, that's not going to happen because this part didn't happen yet and all this other shit. I made that mistake, and I will not make that mistake again, especially when it comes to this movie. So that was why I watched maybe the first, I don't know, 20-30 seconds of the trailer, and then I had to kind of put my head down and put my headphones on and just kind of listen to some other shit so I could just go in fresh. Okay, August 11th is right around the corner. Not really, but kind of. But yeah, I want to see this movie. I watched the first Annabelle movie. I didn't see it in theaters, but it was one of those movies that I watched. I think it came on cable or something like that. And I ended up checking it out, and it surprisingly was pretty good. It was a pretty entertaining movie. Creeped me out a little bit. They had a couple little good ideas in there with the scares and creepiness of everything. But it was a decent movie. So I'm interested in going to see this one. We can see the creation of the doll. Hopefully they don't make the mistake that a lot of origin stories for horror things, or for horror, in the horror genre, when they do origin stories, when they try to explain why a character is the way they are, it kind of ruins the whole mystique of that character. You know, it happened with Nightmare on Elm Street. It happened with Halloween. You know, it's just they kind of over explain shit. And even with the Alien movies that they're doing now with Prometheus and Covenant, is just they get into the whole over explanation of things to the point where it's you go back and watch the movies, you know, of those characters, and you're kind of just you don't creep me out like you used to, you know, because I know that you're this way because of this. Sometimes it's good not to have a fucking origin story for some shit and just let shit be scary. But I'm kind of interested to see what the whole deal is with this doll. If you've never seen the real doll that's based off of, I think the real doll is actually called Annabelle. You should Google it. It's actually really creepy, and the doll in the movie tries too hard to be creepy, whereas this doll is just, it looks like a little regular Raggedy Ann doll, and the fact that it's in this case and there's all this fucking evil aura around it just kind of creeps me out just looking at it. So when you get some time, you should Google the real Annabelle doll, and it's it's kind of creepy the way that doll looks. I don't know why they just didn't do that in the Annabelle movie. Like I said, this one just tries too hard to be fucking creeped out. The Annabelle doll in the movie, I would automatically just stay away from that thing. That thing is just hideous, you know. But this whole little Raggedy Ann doll, the real thing, just it freaks me out even more. But yeah, I wanna check this movie out when it comes. Looking forward to seeing it. So yeah, Annabelle creation, August 11th. Be on the lookout for that. Next trailer that I watched was Murder on the Orient Express. coming out November 10th, which is kind of far away. So it's going to be a long wait for this movie. It's going to be a lot of ducking and dodging when it comes to this, because this movie is pretty much Clue on a train, from what I gathered on the trailer. And this is actually a really good trailer because they don't necessarily show you a lot of the movie. They just kind of like set shit up where it's like there's a character that dies. I'm going to assume that it's Johnny Depp's character because they show Johnny Depp, but then like when they do the scene when they're going around the train car and they're kind of like labeling all the people sitting in that room, Johnny Depp's not in that room. So I'm assuming that he's a person that got murdered. So, you know, I mean, if that's a spoiler, I'm sorry, but let's just put two and two together here, people. But either way, it looks like Clue on the Train. I really liked the movie Clue. It's a classic, instant classic in my opinion. And I got real high hopes for this movie. I don't want to like get my hopes too high, but they're up there. You know, I know I'm possibly setting myself up for disappointment, but you know, that's just the fucking risk I'm gonna have to take because I'm very, very interested in seeing this movie. It looks like it's gonna be pretty funny as well because homeboy at the end with the fucking mustache, like, geez, really, dude? Really? I mean, I guess you'd have to be extraordinary at something. I mean, in his case, he's like the best detective in the world. It's like, you better be the best detective in the world because walking around with that mustache, I just cannot take you seriously. So, you know, it looks good. And it's got a big-ass cast in it, too. Like, that movie must have cost a buttload of money. You're talking about some base pays around here. Like, good Lord. What is it? It's like, well, Johnny Depp's in there, of course. And just him alone is already probably just breaking the budget for that movie. But Judi Dench is in it. Willem Dafoe is in it. Josh Gad, like Michelle Pfeiffer, like good Lord. Okay. So, I'm expecting some high caliber acting in this movie. Okay. I'm expecting people to wow me. Like, I know Willem Dafoe is going to impress me. I'm pretty sure he will. It's very rare to have Willem Dafoe not impress me in a movie. I think he's a fantastic actor, but like, other people, I'm expecting to see some shit, okay? I'm expecting to see some fucking range in this movie. But unfortunately, we gotta wait all the way to November before we can actually see if that comes to fruition. But yeah. Murder on the Orient Express, November 10th. I'm excited. You should be excited. Let's all get fucking excited. While we're on the subject of excitement, let's just go ahead and dive headfirst into the movie section. Dive. Because we're going to be talking about Baywatch, you know, diving into the water. Just, I'm all off with my segues this week. I don't know what's going on with me. I went to go see Baywatch. So here's the thing. I was going to go and watch Cars 3, but some things happened. For one, I messed up my resolution again, where remember when I said when I had a chance to go see movies, I was going to go see the movies. I had a chance to go see Cars. It wasn't a midnight showing, but they had like a pre-showing on Thursday. And I was like, I should go like at the latest show because there's no fucking way, even over summer break, there's no fucking way that there could be a shitload of kids in that movie, right? But I didn't go. I just didn't. I don't know what happened. I think I was like tired from work or whatever, and I just didn't feel like going to the movies at the time. So like I decided not to go, and I was like, I'll just find a way to go over the weekend, which is just a big no-no. But I was gonna go over the weekend. I was all set. On the way to movies, I realized, holy shit, I never seen Cars 2. So I was like, well, you know, all the stars in the universe are telling me not to go see this movie right now, so I'm just gonna have to wait. And we're gonna run into this problem now where I need to figure out how to see Cars 3 without kids being in the theater, and I need to watch Cars 2 before I see Cars 3, just so I can kind of like be caught up on everything that's going on with the characters. I'm crazy like that. I'm sorry. So I got to the theater, And I was like, okay, well, what are we going to see now? Baywatch was still on the board, and there were only like 2 showings left. So at that time, I'm like, oh shit, like, I never saw Baywatch. I wanted to, and judging from these movie times, it looks like this might be the last week for this movie to be here. It's going to be leaving theaters pretty soon, right? So I went to go see Baywatch. So there's that walk. So here's the thing. I used to watch Baywatch in my youth. I watched Baywatch. I don't remember Baywatch that much though. I don't remember a lot of the specifics. All I really remember is I remember David Hasselhoff. I remember Pamela Anderson, of course. I remember girls running around in bathing suits in slow motion. And I remember them just getting in like the weirdest situations that a lifeguard shouldn't be getting into on those shows. Like it was like in the beginning, it's like a standard like people saving other people from drowning in the water. And then for some reason it ends up having like these group of lifeguards take down like drug lords and shit like that, right? Like that's pretty much the basics of what I remember from Baywatch. Now, if you remember when I talked about the trailer, the first trailer that they showed for the Baywatch movie, before I watched the trailer, I was like, oh man, like why the fuck would they make a Baywatch movie? Are you fucking kidding me? You know, but then they end up casting The Rock in it, so I got interested, and then they showed that first trailer for it, and I was like, holy shit, like they're doing like a action comedy type movie. Like I'm all in, you know, that preview looked really good. So based off of that preview, I was pretty much going in, not really remembering the specifics of Baywatch, but what I expected from the movie was I wanted to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think he's a really good actor. He's very entertaining. He always delivers. I have yet to see a movie where I am disappointed with The Rock's performance. I want to see Zac Efron because I think he's pretty funny. He's a pretty funny guy in the movies I've seen him in, and I'm jealous of his body. I really, really want that dude's body. Like I started like kind of getting a little bit of workout in because every time I look at that dude with his shirt off, I just get jealous. I'm just like, fuck, man, I need to work out so much because his body just looks like an Egyptian temple, and my body just looks like a fucking flat tire in the middle of the desert, and it's been sitting there for like years, you know. But yeah, I wanted to see his body and all that. And obviously I wanted to see the girls in their bathing suits running in slow motion, and I just want to see some good action, you know what I mean? And for the most part, the movie delivered on most of the things that I wanted. The story, I mean, like, here's the thing. This isn't a movie, just based off of the trailers, this isn't a movie that needs to be taken seriously, okay? This is like textbook popcorn action comedy. If anything, it's like a buddy cop movie because it's a lot of The Rock, it's a lot of Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron being lifeguards, acting like cops, trying to thwart criminals and shit on a beach and off a beach. And the story is just like, it's very basic, you know, it's textbook. It's nothing to like get all crazy about. They kind of like shoot in some clever things here and there, but for the most part, it's a standard story and it's decent enough to move the movie along and keep you interested. So that's good. Also, I want to say props to the writers. What are their names? Damian Shannon and Mark Swift. Props to those guys for keeping everything into perspective. Like, these are lifeguards, all right? These are the general synopsis of the movie is that there's a bunch of lifeguards on this beach who end up finding drugs on the beach, and they kind of like track it back to like a drug organization, and they're trying to like stop it. Like, that's the general synopsis of the movie that I can give you without like really giving away too much shit. And it's never a point where they're doing something where somebody doesn't call out the fact that they're lifeguards. You know, like the cops are just sitting there like, why are you going undercover with shit? Like, you're a fucking lifeguard. Go save somebody from drowning and let me do the police work. It's shit like that. And it's moments like that that are where a lot of the comedy comes from, and it keeps the movie funny, and it keeps the movie like somewhat realistic, like not crazy hyper drama realistic, but just realistic enough to be like, okay, like these are fucking lifeguards. Don't have them get into too much of a crazy scenario. I'm looking at you, Fast and Furious, because we've been through this before where it's like, I look at Fast and Furious movies and I'm like, okay, you motherfuckers are street racers. What the fuck are you doing on a Russian base shooting at Russian soldiers that have had like firearms training, you know, who are practically marksmen, and y'all motherfuckers are running around taking them head on? Like, Jesus, you know. I don't really run into that with Baywatch, so I was very happy to see that play out on the screen. So the Fast and Furious writers could learn a thing or two from Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, in my opinion. Going back to like the whole comedy of the movie, I think for the most part the movie is funny, and I think that's largely part to it being rated R. Like, kudos to everyone for hitting that fucking R rating. Lots of mature humor. I mean, there's dick jokes and there's boob jokes. Like, it's pretty balanced with that whole situation. So I mean, like, if you're kind of sensitive to that stuff, maybe you shouldn't check out the movie. But I like my comedy raunchy and mature, so I was impressed for the most part. The other thing is too with the comedy, like, the word fuck was used very sparingly, okay? It was used at the right moments. It wasn't overused. And an example of that is, like, just watch any movie with Melissa McCarthy that's rated R, and there's times where she starts out funny, but then she kind of goes long in the tooth, and then it's not funny anymore. And then she keeps like extending it by just saying the word fuck over and over again, or different ways to say fuck. And it gets to the point where it's not funny anymore. That didn't happen in Baywatch. Like, I like the use of the word fuck in the movie. So that was great. The one downside to the movie, like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but like a lot of people, like, you can tell that everyone on the set had fun doing the movie. Like, the movie is just good fun. That's good, but it's also kind of a downfall, because there are some times where the banter between the characters and some jokes that are shot out don't always hit. Sometimes they fall a little flat, you know. And I want to say, I feel like that's largely part of the problem of improv comedy. Just the way certain scenes are shot, it seems like there was a lot of dialogue that was left up to the actors to kind of like just improv everything. And as funny as I think Zac Efron and The Rock are, and as good of a chemistry that they had, as well as like the other casts in the movie as well, like, they all had good chemistry, but I don't necessarily think they're great as improv actors. I think they're the type of actors that maybe they need to kind of stick to the script. So it makes me think that either the director just kind of pulled a Judd Apatow and just said, here's the scene, just go with it, action. Either they did that, or they just kind of like had the actors keep going and going and going to where they had multiple takes, and then they just kind of went through and nitpicked like what joke and what line or punchline they wanted to use, and just kind of like inserted it. And sometimes it hits, but there were times where it didn't hit. So the comedy is a little like here and there, but for the most part, it's a funny movie. At the end of the day, I was happy to see that the actors seemed to have been having a good time during the movie. So that was cool. Another gripe of mine is it's the girls. I mean, the girls are hot. I mean, let's just be honest here, you know, and that's something that I expected going into the movie, is that we were gonna see a lot of hot women walking around in their bathing suits, and that's great. Especially one in particular, because I've never seen her before, but she was fucking gorgeous in this movie. Her name is Kelly Rohrbach. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not, but she was a standout to me. I mean, she was definitely some eye candy. A lot of the girls in there like looked really good, but like she was the one where I was like, God damn, like I wanna see her in some more movies, you know what I'm saying? But the thing with the girls is I like my girls as eye candy, but I also like my girls to be rough. You know, I like them to put up their fisticuffs. I like them to get into the action, you know what I mean? And for the most part, they had their moments here and there, but most of the time they were just something to look at. And I was kind of expecting them to be more than that. You know, a lot of the action is held down with Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron, whereas the girls are kind of like just there. They're all dialed up. They got nice revealing outfits and bathing suits and stuff. A lot of sexual humor going on, which I enjoy, but I just wish that there could have been some more action scenes in there as well to like balance everything out. So that's like another one of my gripes with the movie. But overall, the movie was good. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. Is it worth going to see in theaters? I'm gonna say no. You know, this is definitely one of those movies where you can wait for it to come out on video, and I mean, if you want to rent it, cool. If you want to watch it on cable, you know, if you're just kind of like flicking around and there's nothing on and you see Baywatch on the list, like, check out Baywatch. If you're looking through Netflix and you don't know what to watch, you want to watch something funny, you want to watch some good action, watch Baywatch. You know, it's like that. But as far as like buying a ticket and going to see it in theaters, I don't think it's really worth it unless there's just nothing else to see in theaters and you just want to go see a movie. Like, I mean, just go see Baywatch. But it might be too late now because, like I said, I think they're about to take that out of theaters anyway. So keep your eyes open for when that hits video or digital video, wherever the fuck y'all do nowadays. But yeah, overall, dude, like, good movie. Funny for the most part. I like the chemistry between The Rock and Zac Efron. They have a nice chemistry and everything, but like I said, when it comes to like them trying to like improv some stuff, it's like it doesn't work out most of the time. Well, not most of the time, but there's some times where it just doesn't work out. Alexandra Daddario, she was one of the other girls that I was expecting to kind of like get in there with the action and shit, especially like with her coming off of San Andreas. I expected her to do a lot more shit in this movie, but for the most part, it's just looking at her pretty face and her nice body and all that, and that's really all it comes down to. I also like the soundtrack. The soundtrack had me going a couple times. There's a couple times some songs were coming on and I was like getting into it. It fit the scene, it fit the overall tone of the movie very, very well. You know, it was a nice little party movie to watch. So the last gripe. God damn, I can't believe I forgot this. The last problem that I had with the movie. So I don't think this is a spoiler, because if we really think back to all the fucking movies that have been made that are based off of old TV shows, there's always going to be a cameo from like some of the main stars popping up in the movie, right? So I don't think it's a spoiler to say that David Hasselhoff shows up in the movie. It's great that he makes the cameo, but how his cameo was done, I thought was very lazy. It was kind of like they just threw him in there. If you've ever seen that movie Euro Trip, like, remember how he pops up in that movie? It's kind of the same in Baywatch, the way he shows up, just a lot less funny. So I feel like if anything, that his cameo could have been done a little better. It could have used a little more panache, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, man, that's it. That's all I got for you this week. All right. In closing, videos are being posted, okay? Slowly but surely, but I promise you, by the time episode 30 comes out, by the time it gets posted, the videos will be caught up. The video or the viewers will be caught up with the listeners. Everyone will be on an even keel for episode 30. I promise you. The only thing that's going to stop me is death to me or death to my laptop that I do all this shit on. So just be patient, my viewers. I am sorry. You know, don't blame me. Blame the out of the country trip. But I will catch up. Don't worry about it. As for episode 30, now, I mean, I've been doing pretty good. I feel like getting these posted up every week, but seeing as how it's episode 30 is kind of a big deal to me. I'm kind of experimenting with some things to kind of like put a little bit of flash on that episode, just to kind of like show my appreciation. And it may take a little longer to put together than it normally does for me to put these videos and audio things together. So that's where my Twitter will come in handy, at the Chewels. I will keep you posted on what's going on. As of right now, I'm going to say that episode 30 is on schedule to be posted next week, you know, either Thursday or Friday, whichever one it lands on. Right now, it's on schedule, but like I said, there's some things that I'm trying to do a little different to kind of like put a little flair on the things. And then also, I'm trying to like put this thing together because I want to give like a little prize away to a lucky winner, you know, so like that's going to take a little bit of time too. But as of right now, everything is on schedule. At the very least, maybe there'll be a week delay, but we'll see. But just keep in touch. Just keep my Twitter in your thoughts. Just stop by and see what's going on. I'll keep you posted. Until then, that was Movie Chewsday. Now it's just another day, and I am out.
And it was just another day. Yeah.
Just another day.
Until it went to the movies. Now it's a movie Tuesday.
Just another day.
A movie Tuesday. Until a movie Tuesday.